Well, Romans 14 is the passage of Scripture where Paul teaches us how we are to live with one another at peace when we disagree about things that aren't clear moral issues. So there are issues that are clear moral issues, the Ten Commandments. He mentions a bunch of them in Romans 13. When it comes to those, there's not room for disagreement. Everybody needs to be on the same page because those are clear. But there's a whole host of issues in life where there's freedom for Christians to disagree. And so, but how do we live together when we disagree, when we have different convictions? And Paul gives us some guidance here in Romans 14 about how to do that. In his day, the issues were things like food, whether certain foods were clean or unclean, so kind of a Leviticus background there about Jewish law and the kosher and all that kind of stuff. Drinking or holy days, whether or not as Christians, did Christians still need to observe the Jewish calendar, things like that. And so as he does it, he gives us 5 kind of principles. That's what I'm going to pull out here. 5 kind of principles that we can think of as we navigate our own areas of disagreement. So number 1, he says, it's okay to have different convictions. That's perfectly fine. Let each person be fully convinced in his own mind. Have a conviction. It's good to have convictions about these secondary and third level kind of issues. It's good to have convictions. Be convinced and live how you want to live. So that's number 1. Number 2, whatever you do, be grateful. So if you're going to observe a certain day, as you observe it, be grateful. Honor the Lord by being grateful. And if you're going to abstain, if you're not going to observe that day, be grateful and honor the Lord. If you're going to eat, thank God for the food. If you're going to abstain from that food because you think it's unclean, give thanks to the Lord. Either way, gratitude is required. And that's one of the things that can bind us together, is that we're both being grateful, both for what we're doing and for what other people are doing. Third, this one's really important. Don't judge your brother. Don't despise your brother. If you have a different way of doing it, don't look down upon them. And this is important because the fourth thing, why can we do this? Why can we not look down on others? Because you're not their master. Paul says, he's very clear. You're going to give an account to God. They're going to give an account to God. But you're not going to give an account to them. And they're not going to give an account to you. You're not their master. If you were their master, then you could tell them what to do. You could impose your convictions upon them. But you're not their master. Jesus is their master. He's their Lord. And so he's the one who will deal with them, and he will deal with you. And the thing he's mainly going to be concerned about is, were you grateful? And did you despise your brother in these secondary areas? That's what he's going to ask you about. He's not going to ask you about what they did. And so that's the fourth thing. So first, it's good to have different convictions. 2, be grateful no matter what those are. 3, don't judge or despise those who differ. 4, because you're going to give an account to God for what you do. And then 5th, this is important, he says sometimes there's issues where there is a weaker and a stronger brother. There's a more mature and a less mature, an immature brother. And in those cases, we can identify who's who. So it's not just that anything goes. There are certain issues where it is kind of an anything goes. It's just different convictions. It's fine. There's not really a difference in maturity level. But there are issues where there is a different maturity level. When it came to things like abstaining from food, Paul says, I'm fully persuaded that no food is unclean in itself. And the reason he's persuaded is because that's what Jesus said. Jesus declared all foods clean. And so in this case, Paul is on the side of Jesus, but he recognizes certain people, like maybe Jews who their whole life have abstained from eating pork, feel like, I just can't do it. And he says, in that case, I'm going to accommodate you. But as I accommodate you, I'm the stronger who's accommodating the weaker. I'm stronger in faith. I can eat pork or not. You're the weaker because you can't at all. And that's important for us to get that in some of these situations, there really is a weaker and a stronger, and it's important to be able to identify in some circumstances, because otherwise you have people who in fact are weaker brothers, but who don't think of themselves as weak. They think they're the stronger one, and they're trying to impose their conviction on other people, and that's wrong. Because in that case, you're not dealing with Romans 14. You're dealing with maybe Phariseeism. Those who have their own traditions, which they want to impose on other people and force other people to live by their convictions, contrary to what God has said. And so we have to be able to distinguish. So one test you can always do in these kind of situations is, can I pick out who the weaker and stronger is? And if I can pick out who the weaker and stronger is, can I say that out loud? Can I identify, this is the weaker, that's the stronger, and everybody will own it. In which case, then we can live with one another in peace and harmony. Now, we're going to have an opportunity here in the coming weeks and months to apply Romans 14. Because as we open back up, as society opens back up after coronavirus, there's going to be all kinds of questions about what we're supposed to do. Do you wear a mask? Do you not wear a mask? Do you gather in groups? Do you not gather in groups? Do you come to church? Do you not come to church? All kinds of questions. And in our church, there are going to be people who have different convictions about this, different levels of risk, different assessment of the gravity and the seriousness of the situation, of their own personal needs, of how they want to think about their family. And so we're going to land in different places. And so this is going to be an opportunity. I don't think that this is one where it's necessarily a stronger and weaker, but those other 4 points are directly applicable. When it comes to evaluating, you need to be fully convinced in your own mind. Have a conviction. What do you think is best for you? What do you think is best for your family? It's good to have a conviction. Second, no matter which way you go, whether you wear a mask or don't wear a mask, be grateful. Be grateful to God and honor the Lord, both for your own way of living it out and for the people who differ. Third, don't judge or despise those who differ from you. If they're more strict, don't judge them. If they're less strict, don't judge them. You're not their master. They're going to give an account to God. You're going to give an account to God. And so entrust it to Him. Let Him be the one to deal with them, and you deal with you. And then finally, this is the big deal. Remember, this is a great word for us here in an era of coronavirus. In verse 7, Paul says, none of us lives to himself. None of us dies to himself. For if we live to the Lord. And if we die to the Lord. So then whether we live or whether we die, we are the Lord's. This is why Jesus died and rose again, so that He could be the Lord of the dead and the living. Either way, we belong to Jesus. That's the big news. That's the great news. And that's what enables us in the meantime to live with one another in peace and harmony.